what's happened over the last month with Jonathan Kuminga is he's played himself out of trade discussions, or at least trades that make sense. I don't know about you, but I'm not trading him for Cam Johnson. I'm not throwing him in a Jimmy Butler deal. I wouldn't trade him for Lauri Markkanen right now. Remember that name? Where y'all seen Lauri Markkanen this season? Right? Kuminga, a month ago, before he wasn't getting this consistent opportunity, even if you liked Kuminga as a player, it was like, well, if he and Kerr are going to continue to butt heads and he's not going to get the opportunity, then I guess put him in a trade because we need help, right? And over the last month, what he has shown, how efficiently he's done it, coming off the bench, it's like we've waited and waited all these years for him to take this step, and finally seems like it's happening. And now he goes down with an ankle sprain, a bad one, right? He's coming down from the apex of a contested shot, and he's tough, man. He's tough, right? Because he didn't make a big fuss about it. He got up off the floor quick and went to the locker room. A lot of guys these days, right, you get the wheelchair out, like you're doing a whole lot for an ankle sprain like that. And as we sit here Sunday afternoon awaiting the MRI results, it's funny that ankle mobility to me really determines the severity and how guys, because everyone deals with ankle turns differently. Remember when KD was with the Warriors, I used to watch him roll his ankle like once a week. And you'd be like, oh, that looked bad. That rolled like all the way over. And he's just like, good, right? Now, someone like LeBron, he'll barely turn his ankle over and he's down like, oh, and it's like LeBron's out 10 days, right? The mobility initially in your ankles, I think, has a lot to do with how well you recover from an ankle sprain. Now, this wasn't just stepping on a shoe, right? Like a turnover. This was going to be an injury regardless of how much mobility Kuminga has in his ankles. I think the question is it like a 1 to 2 week one or a 4 to 6 week sprain for Kuminga, which goes without saying, because that was the moment I had. I don't know about y'all last night, but when you realized it was a bad one, when you saw the replay, you were like, there was this moment of clarity of how important Kuminga has really become to all of this right now. Even, whether you want to ship him out for another player or you believe in him being the number 2 guy now, right? It's all so important. Everything is connected to him now. A lot of it. Obviously, this is still the Steph Curry show, but after that, like everything kind of, all hope kind of rests on Kuminga, whether you believe in his trade value or his development. And so that was a tough blow psychologically just as a fan. But it's funny how, you stumble into things, right? I don't think we maybe acknowledge that enough in professional sports, how often teams, coaches stumble into Brock Purdy, right? You stumble into this, you stumble into that. And Kyle Anderson, slow-mo, what's the saying I like to use? Stay ready so you ain't got to get ready. Kyle Anderson stayed ready, even though he'd been DNP'd for it feels like the last month and it didn't make any sense. So in he comes against his former team and had a huge impact in that second half. Now, I think he was playing a little bit because we were down so many bodies initially, but he would have not nearly had the role he did in that second half had Kuminga not gone down. And now it's his opportunity to have an impact on this roster right now. And defensively, I've said before, he is one of the most clever, crafty defenders I've ever seen. He's got elite hands. And you saw him get 4 or 5 deflections in that second half, right? But he's also knows how to anticipate where to be, the tendencies of guys, KYP, and then he's a big body. But I think also offensively, yes, we know he's got the 2-step verification 3-point ball, right? But he's going to help keep us more unpredictable because slow-mo is a guy that keeps you on your toes as a D. You don't really know what he's going to do. And he uses his eyes very well to shift the defense. It's like Jokic in the sense of wherever he's looking, you can almost guarantee that's not where he's trying to go on the floor, whether it's a pass or he's attacking, right? He shifts teams with his eyes, and you're like, is he taking a Euro step? Is he kicking to the corner? I'm not sure he knows because he moves so slowly, he can make the decision in the moment, but he has an idea of what may happen. And so I'm excited to see Slow-Mo step in and finally get an opportunity here. That said, again, Kuminga, I think we all realize, Dub Nation collectively, no matter how you feel about which direction to go with him, how important he is to the future of this team one way or another. Let's talk Buddy. He gets the start. Typical Steve Kerr move, giving the nod to the veteran. They want to get him going, right? And he did shoot the ball better. It seemed as though he found a rhythm off that one dribble relocate shot that he was finding a rhythm with, rather than his shot seemed, the word I'll use is relaxed. His release seemed a little more relaxed, right? But here's the thing. I'm kind of done with Buddy. I'm going full heel on Buddy here. He's a likable guy, but the more and more I watch him, he is just not a very good basketball player. And defensively, he can't get down in his stance. Teams just constantly pick on him. Now, I understand if that's all we had. If it was like, hey, we need Buddy to play that role, and so we've got to kind of force him to play better. But that's not the case. Because behind him, you've got Lindy Waters and Moses Moody. And Lindy came into the game before Moses last night. And I was like, that's pretty interesting because, Moses has been shooting the seams off the ball, but Lindy's been playing better as well. Okay, fine. And I think when it comes to Steve Kerr's train of thought and why Lindy has kind of got the nod over Moses there's a couple of reasons. One, he makes less mistakes defensively. Neither of them, I think, are as good defensively as you would have hoped for and want. But Moody gives up bigger, louder mistakes like blow-bys, where Lindy, it's just not as, he doesn't make as many mistakes. Defensively, he's a better passer, right? I think that those are the two elements. But Moses, the way he's stroking the ball, and once he gets going, Moses has that element of like, oh, he's hot, he's cooking. He also gets to the line and can create a little more of his own better than Lindy, right? And so I'm curious to see either one of them get that opportunity over Buddy Hield right now. I don't see why the team has to be committed to Buddy. He's on a fair deal that can be traded. And I've watched enough of the other elements of his game. I know he hit 4 or 5 threes last night, but it's all the other things that lead me to not trust him when games matter. Defensively, ball in the hand decision-making, all the other things where I think it's time to give Lindy and Moses that opportunity, or one of them. And then that brings up the other dilemma, because there's probably only a true rotation spot for either Lindy or Moses. And that's the choice you've got to make, because the platooning of them, I don't think works for those two shooters. They've got to have a consistent minutes carved out for them, and then you see what can happen. Lindy shot the seams off the ball. Right now, big picture, you say, oh, Moses deserves the opportunity. He's been here longer. He's put in more work, at least within the Warriors organization. I understand that, and I would be fine with it. But right now, I'm curious to see what Lindy can build on with this performance. He was 6 of 7 last night, 4 threes, a bunch of big ones down the stretch, right? And so I'm curious to see what he looks like if he can just build on this role, right? Where it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to get these 15 or 20 minutes. I know where my shots are coming, because that's what he does. But if it's Moses, I'm good with that too. I just think Buddy needs to have a seat and be on the back burner. I've seen enough of it. Even though he did play better last night, I'm over it. I don't think that we need to rely on him. Now, Memphis depleted no Ja, who I said in today's breakdown, like, he's officially injury prone to me. And I don't think that comes to anyone's surprise. When he came out of, where did he play? I forget now. But it was a small school, right? But it was like, the way he attacks the rim and his body type, we'll see how durable he is. And sure enough, Ja is officially injury prone. So he's out. I think the other injury that was key for Memphis last night was Santi Aldama, who plays the stretch 4 for them and plays in the front court alongside Jaren Jackson Jr. And so what that did was it forced more Edey minutes, and we picked on him from the perimeter. Got 23 threes. I think a big part of that was Edey playing heavy minutes. And then you have the Draymond Edey beef. Draymond is starting beefs on his podcast before he even plays against guys. Listen, I'm impartial to Edey. I've never had a strong take on him, but if he was a rookie on my team, I think he's handling Draymond exactly how you'd want him to. Answer back. Be just as physical back. Don't let him punk you like that, right? And so it is what it is. And then the refs got in their feelings, right? And it's the human element. I've spoken about this so many times. I often compare it to police. I've seen this a lot with police, where people treat cops like they're robots, right? They're just normal people, right? And so when you add in a human element, if you're antagonizing or being an ass to a person, they're going to try to stick it back to you. And Draymond antagonized it. You heard him mocking the refs, and the rim mic was picking up a lot of the talking on the court. And Draymond was pushing the buttons. And then so after that, they were like, all right, we're out to get you. F you. That's what we're going to do. And so that's part of the Draymond experience. Now, I thought he was going to crash out. We saw this too many times last year where he would crash out and hijack the game, and then we'd lose our concentration, right? And I thought that that's what was going to happen. And so I credit Draymond for towing the line. He didn't go too far, but it was on the verge of us just like totally blowing it there. I think at the start of the fourth quarter, Schroder comes down, hits a 28-footer, and then we win the Lindy Waters challenge, and that kind of settled things, right? But yeah, that's just part of the Draymond experience. And to his credit, I'll say this. Has there been a game he's hijacked this year? Now, there's been games where you're like, oh, he's dogging it, like he's checked out a little bit, but we haven't had one of these incidents where he picks up double T's, there's a flagrant, and it's like this big outburst that distracts everything. He hasn't done that yet. And so I'm grateful for that. But then I'm probably burying the lead of Andrew Wiggins coming to the rescue in that second half. What do you have, like 20 second half points? Desmond Bane poking the bear, poking two-way Wiggs, right? Look, I used to think Desmond Bane, the tough guy act, it was just a tough, that it was just that. It was like, come on, you ain't nobody afraid of you in them little gator arms, right? But he's pretty consistent with that energy. If you watch Memphis enough, Bane goes at everybody. He's talking to LeBron. He's talking to everybody, Luka, all of them. It's a cultural thing that the Grizzlies really are the new Miami Heat. They really are. And that's why probably they should go get Jimmy Butler. But that's a story for another time. But yeah, Wiggins, man, he is, you could make an argument, he's been our most consistent player all season long. And so now Bane's talking to him. He bulldozes him over. No Steph, now no Kuminga. They're already going to call his number more than often. And he was ready to go. And so if Kuminga is going to miss some weeks here, I don't see why Wiggins, we can't get a 22 Wiggins run here for a week or two where he's given us 25 points. And he's been playing ultra efficient. He's healthy. He's happy. And yeah, you got to find the opportunity in the misfortune, because as poor timing as it is for Kuminga to go down when he's thriving like this, we do have guys ready to step up and fill that role and perhaps stumble into some different looks defensively, offensively. I guess the last thing that I'll wrap this up with here before we talk about tonight's matchup is the Warriors are now 5-2 without Steph Curry. Now, we all understand it starts and stops with Steph. Any type of contention or meaningful basketball, it's about Steph Curry, right? But I think that the elements that have helped us in these non-Steph games are when you have the younger guards playing more, we're pushing the pace more, which helps, right? And then down the stretch, it's not the predictable Steph Draymond two-man game, right? When you watched last night, Schroder, to me, was maybe the best player on the floor. I need to mention Schroder because the shots we got down the stretch, they were just great shots. And it wasn't the same thing over and over again. You could see the defense had to stay honest. Oh, he may kick it to Lindy in the corner. We may go to the dunker spot. He's getting all the way into the paint. Swing. I just liked how the offense looked down the stretch. Now, obviously, you're going to need Steph back at some point, and we're going to get him back tonight. But I think that that we can learn from that, or I say they can learn that even when Steph's in the game down the stretch, we don't have to rely on him to make big shots. If it's there, it's there, right? But if they can just play more natural offense, I think it'll help everybody. The other element that Schroder brings is you saw us pick up some full court ball pressure. I think he's a huge part of doing that. I know a lot of teams are trying to do that because it's trendy, but you got to have a guy like Schroder who can deny the initial pass. In order to really be successful with that, you got to make the inbounder go to the second pass. And Schroder's so quick, and he's able to stay attached to the initial ball handler. It forces it to the second pass. Now you have a scramble. Teams get discombobulated, and you create turnovers. We got the Kings tonight. Underdog. You can click the link in the description. Use the code Alchemy. You can get up to $1,000 bonus on your first deposit. I do have some picks for you in this game. Now, De'Aaron Fox is questionable after that big fall he had with Jaren Jackson Jr. the other night. I don't think that was dirty. I think that Jaren Jackson thought Fox was going to go to a runner or a floater or some sort of layup. So he was angling to contest, and it was too late. Fox tried to take off on him, fell on his hip And so he may not play. I like Malik Monk higher than 20.5 points. Since Doug Christie has taken over, he's leaned more into Malik Monk, and I think there'll be more opportunity for him. And then Steph, I'm going to go higher than 5.5 assists. I like point Steph right now. We're shooting the seams off the ball. Everybody's shooting well. So I hope that he leans into distributing. But yeah, those are my picks. The link's in the description. And as always, it's a great way to support the channel. Now, as far as this Warriors-Kings game goes, you may not have a De'Aaron Fox. Obviously, Steph is going to go, and you're not going to have Kuminga. But both these teams, these Pacific Division rivals, they're kind of at similar spots in the season. Obviously, the Warriors didn't get rid of their coach. I know a lot of you would be happy about that, but that didn't happen. But as far as it's a now or never point of the season for both of these teams, and they've both seemed to have caught a little momentum here in the last week. And so now it comes to a head. And I like our chances at home against the Kings, especially if they don't have De'Aaron Fox. But I think more importantly, big picture, we all sit with our fingers crossed with the MRI news from Jonathan Kuminga. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.